Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. We're talking with Dr. Ty Eriks.
Yes, sir. Mr. Weidel, it's great to see you.
Yes, sir. Ty's known for many things. I've known him mainly as my dentist.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years. I mean, we're probably looking at 5 years or something here, Larry.
Yeah, at least. And from that, the conversations have, he's been into my art studio. I think he came to the grand opening or something like that back in...
Yep, went to the West Palm Beach. Yeah.
And so anyway, over the years, we've talked, and it finally dawned on me. I found out that he had a brewery. And then I found out the whole other side of his life.
Yeah. Here, I'll show you guys here.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go around here where you can see everything. Oh. And then there's Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
So what's the square footage there?
About 5,500 square feet.
5,500. That's substantial. And the thing is that to tell people the story, what I thought would be fun for us to get into is, a lot of people have multiple interests, but you're just going to have to, guys listening, you're going to have to put up with a little background noise because we're in a brewery.
Yeah, indeed.
There's going to be conversation.
I was trying to tell people to keep a little bit quiet because we're not quite opening yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah, so there's going to be conversation, but we'll hang with us. You'll be glad you did. But the thing is with Ty, what was exciting for me to hear about is that what I thought he could share is the vantage point of not only having two double interests, equally strong interests like that, but excelling, knocking it out of the park in both arenas. So the thing is, there is a myth, most people want to do something great with their life. They never do. And that's what I wrote my book about. If they do it once, they don't keep repeating. But then there's people like Ty that go out there and are able to be successful over and over again because of their thinking, their approach to life, and they just do the right things. They set things up for success, and even if you fall on your face, eventually you don't fall on your face as much.
Gotta pick yourself up. Yeah,
you learn from it, and you start to get successful, and then you find yourself moving up to the top of the whatever world you're in, and so being able to knock it out of the park in a profession, which is a big thing. It is highly competitive, and I'll let you talk about that.
Sure.
But you did it even in school. You started to get recognized with awards in school with
football in school, yeah.
Inducted into the Dental Honor Society even while you're in college. And then get out there and get your other passion that you kind of started while you're in school. So we got a lot of stories to talk about, but then you turn that into this incredible business, and the popularity is just growing.
Yes, it is.
And so you've knocked it out of the park in two areas. One of the biggest, fastest growing craft beer operations. That might not be the right way to say it, but he'll correct me. It's in South Florida, all the way up into Disney World and lots of outlets. And anyway, the message today, folks, is that you can do it big in more than one profession and one interest. And if you do, you can keep them going. You can grow both.
You can.
And because it's always fun to do things well.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's also fun to keep yourself interested in multiple avenues that fill your life, It's really important.
Let's do this, Ty. And then also, I know your wife is incredibly successful herself in real estate. And, we've talked about getting her on the program as well. And so
she's probably a little better spoken than I am too. So she's probably more fun to listen to.
Unfortunately, it's taken us this long just to get Ty done, and then we'll go to work.
I know. She's much more regimented in her schedule too. So it might be a little easier to get her as well. So
anyway, Ty, tell us. I know about your experience up in Boston in college and that. We're going to get to that. But before you got there, Ty, in your formative years of absorbing and thinking about the future and sports and coaches and teachers, and you're absorbing things. You're getting your principles down, you're getting your role models, what you like, you don't like. When did you start getting ideas about your future, and how far back do you think that went?
First of all, I think it starts really early. I mean, I was very blessed to have great parents that, taught me to do things the right way, work hard, earn everything you get. Nothing is ever handed to you. It started there, and then I had some challenges with school when I was younger. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger, like a lot of kids, and learned how to work through it without taking medicines. I'm not saying that that's the norm. It's just what worked for me. Use my energy to do other things and stay focused and control the energy so that things got done in a controlled and detailed manner. So that took a long time.
Talk about that thing, because most people are parents, have kids, and you don't really realize the impact of how you treat them, how you say, but it goes better if you got a plan and you got kind of a general idea about what I'm going to be telling them. And I definitely am going to be telling them these things and ending for things. But how did they communicate that to you, that you got to work hard, you got to earn everything?
Well, I start from the beginning. I never got handouts. My first car, my dad helped me set up a car washing business when I was in high school, like things like that obviously didn't pay for everything, but at least I had to work towards it. I think that really set the precedence for just making sure that you are working hard and going in the direction that you want to go in to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. So that really started it. Honestly, without that foundation, it would have been a lot tougher to do this. But with that, and I obviously school became very important because I realized that without that, you couldn't fulfill the other dreams that you have for your life. So I spent a lot of my time, or most of my time, on school and sports. I played college football as well. I played at the University of Washington. I played 5 years, redshirted 1 year, and lettered for 4 years. Played defensive line and fullback for the time I was there. And even then, I'd spent a ton of time out off the field in school. I majored in neurobiology in college, and there was maybe 25 people accepted into that major a year. So I was trying to set myself up because I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. Wasn't quite sure at that point in time what avenue of healthcare I wanted to go in, but I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. And the reason why I knew that is because my family is a ton of healthcare providers in my family, from nurses to medical surgeons, and my dad was a periodontist. So, obviously all his friends and my uncle's friends, my mom's friends were all in the healthcare world. So I knew I wanted.
How did the thing come up about you find you got the
ADHD? Yeah.
And how do you get to the conclusion as a kid, or maybe your parents had you, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to have a lot of activities, and I'm going to work my way through it rather than take the drugs?
Definitely more my mother. My mom was on the psychiatric side of being a nurse practitioner. So she had dealt with a lot of this stuff with her patients. And so she knew, we tried things initially and it just didn't work for my personality and that kind of thing. So she went the other route and, obviously stayed in sports a lot, got the energy out. But she put me in a summer program, which really, in my mind, I think major change in my life, in the trajectory of my life. Did a summer program at a school called Morningside Academy in Seattle. And they specialize with kids with ADD and ADHD. And what they do is they make school competitive, which it is anyway. But, a lot of the kids don't realize that at that point in time. And life's competitive, school is competitive, and how you succeed in that obviously directly affects how you do in life, right? And your opportunities that rise. So everything from, reading comprehension to, times tables to anything, they make it a competition with your classmates. And that really changed my mental outlook on school to every single day be competitive and look around the room and say, hey, I'm going to be the best in this room every day that I arrive. And didn't really click, I don't think, until maybe 7th or 8th grade kind of thing. So it was a struggle for me in school for a long time until that point in time. And then it just clicked. And you know what? I put the time in. I probably had to put 3 times the amount of work as most kids had to put in. But and that's the way it always has been in my life, even through dental school. So, but I'm fine with that. At the end of the day,
Isn't it amazing how you can take, like with me, I never wanted to be in business because growing up, in fact, my mother used to harass me. It's like, Larry, you got to stop criticizing everybody you meet, behind their back, everybody that shows up and whatever job they have. It's like, I couldn't imagine doing that. Can you imagine having, she said, I'm sick of it. She did,
yeah,
sooner or later, you got to find something you like. You're going to have to do something.
right.
I never could visualize, Ty, but I played sports all year long. And somehow nobody ever told me, and I was not smart enough to figure out that business is sports. Business is competition.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how your attitude can flip like you said, overnight when you say, oh, I can beat these people. It's like, this is something for me to have fun with, and I get beat. And somewhere along the line, all of us, when you're on the entrepreneurial thing, you've got to get to the point where you realize I can put the energy in and I can get the results back. This is going to be worth it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's all tied in there together. But it is amazing. I don't know that I've ever heard of a educational program where they did that, but thank goodness they did for you.
Yeah. So again, my mom found, I don't know how she found it. It so happened to be in Seattle where I'm born and raised. So my mom was the one that found that school. And I don't, through her avenues of working in Seattle and the greater Seattle area, she found that program. So, and she thought, obviously, we're looking at avenues to make this whole thing click and start going in the right direction. And it did. So
yeah.
Very thankful for that.
Yeah, it's amazing. In fact, if you're having problems with your kids or even employees or people in a team that you're supervising, if you could get some competition going, find a way to get the competitive angle involved, you're probably going to see things start to work out to your advantage. Now, how did you go from Seattle and then, University of Washington, you wind up in Boston all the way across the country? How did that go?
So after playing college sports, again, I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. I graduated with a neurobiology degree. I just wasn't sure what avenue I wanted to go in. So I thought dentistry, wasn't quite sure. So I took a year off of school. I ended up assisting my father for about a year and a half and realized that that's the profession I wanted to go into. So one of my dad's old dental assistants, she went to dental school in Boston 3 years before this time.
Right.
And so I asked her about her experience. And of course, my dad shared his experience going to dental school at the University of Washington. And obviously hers was much better. So I applied there, and I'd never lived out of Seattle at that point in time. So I wanted to try something different, completely different. So I applied, and the story is kind of long. I'll try to make it short, but I was also with my wife at that point in time. We were not married at that point in time, but she was applying for law school. So we were trying to apply for schools in the same cities, and it just kind of wasn't working out. So yeah. I'd get into a school, and mind you, we both had basically 4.0s in college. So we thought that it would be a cakewalk, to get into the school.
Get in wherever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, wherever. It's whatever. It's easy. So I ended up getting to Boston University, and she got into Boston University, but she also got into Duke with a full ride scholarship for law school. I did not get into North Carolina. I got into University of Pacific, and she did not get into Stanford. So we were kind of like looking at these schools like, okay, well, it looks like we're going to have a long distance relationship and do the best we can. At that point in time, you're 24 years old or whatever. And I would say probably 3 days before we had to give our final deposits to go to school, Boston University gave her a 3/4 scholarship for law school. And so it all kind of happened the way it was supposed to happen. But that's how Boston became a big part of our lives for 4 years.
Boston's a big craft beer town. How did you get going on the beer side of it?
Well, that's exactly where it started. Yeah. So it actually didn't start out in the city of Boston. One of my dental school classmates from Brazil actually started making beer with his father, who was a chemistry professor, still is a chemistry professor in South Brazil. And everybody that got A's in his class got a chance to make a beer with the professor at the end of the semester and learn how it all worked. And and all that. So he, semester after semester after semester, got to learn how to make beer. So, of course, us being poor students in Boston and not able to go out and, restaurants and bars, that kind of thing. He goes, hey, now I know how to make beer. Let's give it a go. And I'm like, all right, we'll try it. So we did. And, the first couple of batches were palatable. They weren't great, but you get better and better as you do with, as long as you put your effort towards it and all that and figure out what went wrong, how to make it better and all that. And we ended up doing it for all 4 years we were there and started with making small batches for ourselves. And then we made batches for, chocolate parties and things like that, where it became actually something that we got to do for a little bit of money. So it was good. It was fun.
Now,
so that's how it started.
Now, how did you start? So you moved to South Florida.
Yep.
To start your business. Let's just do a little bragging. How well has your dental practice done?
Great. It's done very, very well. I bought it in 2016. And from that time, I have grown substantially in Boynton Beach and also expanded to Fort Lauderdale off of Las Olas. So we got a couple practices now, and the one on Las Olas I did with Dr. Pike, who is my periodontist in Boynton. I've been working with him probably since 2013. Even before I bought my dental practice, I was working with him in Fort Lauderdale. But he comes up and does a day of surgery every week in my Boynton office. And then this opportunity arose down here, and we decided to do the expansion together down here on Las Olas. So it's been very good to us. I really can't complain about that. But, again, with morals of growing up, just doing the right thing by everybody, it grows on itself, it grows on its own. People send people, and that's how the whole business has always grown for me.
Your brewery is down that way too, right?
Yeah, I also live down here too.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you lived down. Okay.
Yeah, I live between Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach, kind of Lauderdale by the sea area.
Yeah. Okay. All right. For those of you who are sick and tired of fooling around and are dead serious about wanting to move up fast, I've got something especially for you. I've combined the best insights from over 40 years in business and making $70 million in income and compressed them into a free webinar. That's right, it's a free resource. If you want to find out exactly what the concepts are that I use in coaching $1 million earners, register now at WeidelOnWinning.com. You'll discover the 5-part framework used by so many to reach their financial, personal, and professional goals. You can find that link in this episode's show notes. Well, now, first of all, let's talk about how substantial the beer business is already.
Oh.
We'll talk about how you got into it and all, but let people know we're talking about something serious.
So we started like any other startup business. We did not buy a business. We started from scratch. We built the building out. This building that you kind of got the panorama of was empty white box when we came in here. So there's a lot of build up that had to happen. My business partner at the time and I did it together. So most of the build out that we were legally able to do, we did on nights and weekends and all that. Because again, trying to make it work financially and all that.
Really?
Yeah, we did a lot of it on our own. So
now you're on your feet a lot.
Yep.
I've been in the office with a lot of running back and forth to office,
yeah.
Patient to patient. You're on your feet. And at the end of the day, you go back down to Lauderdale and now you're a construction worker.
Yeah. You wear a lot of hats trying to do all this stuff.
You have a lot of energy.
You gotta do a lot of stuff on your own. I mean, a lot of banks and that kind of thing, they don't want to do startup stuff because it's too much risk. So do what you got to do to make it work. This is a dream that we had. And yes, it took a lot of nights and weekends and birthdays and whatever to build this place out and start it. So
what you're doing, you're cleaning, you're carpentry, you're painting.
Yep. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Where did you learn how to do all that?
My grandfather, mostly. I grew up doing a lot of carpentry with my grandfather, my mom's dad. We built everything, building out rooms and stuff like that. We built little boats together and things like that. I learned how to manipulate and work with different materials. Can't say that we ever passed.
It's amazing how those skills can come back.
Yeah.
Be useful down the road, isn't it? Like everything you learn how to do, you'll wind up using.
I don't think we ever mastered any one of them. But we sure learned a lot.
Yeah.
But my birthday was putting up this brick wall behind us. That little faux brick wall was done on my birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, my family was here helping. My family was in on this. And certainly, I was going to say this earlier too, a lot of this I couldn't do without massive amounts of familial support. From my wife to my mom, my stepdad. My dad is unfortunately not with us anymore, but tremendous amount of support that helps us get to and achieve the goals that obviously we wanted to achieve. So there's a lot of that too.
Now, let's get into the actual nuts and bolts of getting started in your profession. The way professionals, they have an option that a lot of business you don't have there, where you can buy a practice. You can work there for a while maybe, and you can take over a practice. Does that guarantee automatic success when you buy a practice?
No, it doesn't. I can tell you, I had a failed experience. So when I first moved to Fort Lauderdale,
Hey, Ty, don't feel bad. People love this.
No. I had a failed experience.
Everybody has failed experiences. They'll like you a lot better when they find out you had a failed.
Yeah, no, for sure. As soon as I moved to Fort Lauderdale from Fort Myers. When I first moved to Florida, I was in Fort Myers where I did my residency. I worked there for about a year and a half before moving over to Fort Lauderdale. I moved to Fort Lauderdale because I had an opportunity to be an associate in a well-known practice here in Fort Lauderdale. I'm not going to name names because it's not important, but I worked there for 3 years. And the goal was, when I started, was to build the practice to a level where it could sustain both of us as practitioners and owners. And we did that in year 3, and he sold it from underneath me to a corporation. So long story short, it wouldn't work out for us to come to an accord and become partners and do all that. So I decided to leave and buy my own practice. And that's when I bought Boynton Beach.
Let's talk about that. When depending on the business you're in, you're having to interact more frequently. And when you're in that kind of situation in an office where you see people all every day and you hear them yakking in the other room, if no offense to anyone, but if things don't click, I mean, if you're not a match, you're not a click together, you're orient.
Oh, people will see it right away for sure.
You can't hide it, and it can't.
No.
Yeah.
No, you cannot.
I don't know if it's chemical. I don't know if it's the electric signal that we have, but if there's not a match, you got to recognize.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, 100%. And then but then again, there's definitely some luck involved too. Like when I bought the Boynton practice, all the staff, everybody was just amazing. Like I haven't had to do anything in terms of staff up there. A lot of them are staff from 35 years ago.
Yeah.
That have accepted me as the dentist, and as really it's a family. It's a business family, and which is how I have it at the brewery too. We're here for each other. It's not just a business. It's not just a job. We run it as a family, and that seems to be what's successful for us, and what people, patients and patrons, what they see when they come in. It has a whole different feel than a normal medical dental clinic, which is, I think, what speaks for itself.
Using your own words, I'm curious why you said I had a failed experience.
Well, it was a learning experience. How about that? Yeah, it was a learning experience.
How long did it go on? And then what was your takeaway from that?
So again, about year 3 is when that happened. And then I stuck around with the corporation for about 6 or 7 months because, again, at the end of the day, I didn't want to leave the patients and their practice high and dry. I just didn't think that was the right thing to do. So I stuck around for a little bit, did what they asked me to do and all that. But at the same time, I was looking for
You started looking.
Yeah, the practice that I wanted to have. And again, not easy to find, trying to find a practice that wasn't completely insurance driven, didn't have corporate fingers in it, and that kind of thing. So really practice that I could run as, again, a family, and every one of my patients has my cell phone number. Anybody can reach me on the weekends. I mean, the kind of practice I always wanted to have is a very accessible practice that people felt comfortable calling. Some people, especially new patients, they don't feel comfortable calling. And they'll say, hey, no, that's what it's for. Call me anytime you have a problem.
Well, the point is that you were smart in how you went about it. And I'd like to point that out because sometimes we don't think about it. It's like when you find a situation's not going well.
Yeah.
Don't be in a hurry to make a move because you'd worked your whole life, you get your education, you get the degrees, you get the credibility, and then you go out there, you get the experience, and you had a bunch of clients. You had a customer,
Yeah.
you had a good name. And the problem there, you realize this has got to change. I can't do forever, but not enough to like blow it all up. It's like,
No.
take your time. When you move, make sure you've got something solid to move to.
Correct.
Don't give up everything in a temper tantrum or
Correct. I thought about it, but I didn't.
I visualize you on a Friday afternoon with your hands around his throat, about ready to take a punch.
No,
and he said, no, I'm not going to do this. But anyway.
You know what? Doing things the right way always works out for the better in the long run. So
yeah, but the thing is that one of the things, if you're going to run a business, you can't let emotion drive you. And you're going to have to put up with some irritations. You're going to have to because nobody's even.
Yes. Yes, big time.
It's even the people that are perfect are not perfect all the time. So
no, for sure not. I'm not perfect all the time. Nobody is. So.
Yeah. So the deal is that you took your time to find. So, and you made an intelligent move. You made a logical move. You made, and that's the way we all need to move through life. We need to do our due diligence. We need to be smart enough to realize, look down the road and say, is this situation going to work for me or not? If you reach a conclusion it's not,
right.
Then start, you can shift up here.
Yep.
And that's what you did. And then it turned out the way you wanted, but it's not an accident. You said, I'm very fortunate. Well, you're very fortunate because you went about it the way you went about it.
Yeah, no. I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a way to go about things, even though something's disappointing or whatever. You got to evaluate, and in your brain, you're right. You got to make moves in your brain, and again, start looking for practices or whatever. Keep going. And again, the right thing to do is to stay there for the patients that I had, and at the time, tell them, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing. This is where we're going to be. And the good majority of them actually came up to Boynton, which was good. So yeah, I can't really complain.
Pretty amazing. And the thing is that we go through these, and I kind of repoint these lessons out, because we got to there's so many things for us to keep up with, Ty, and we have to make decisions. Boom, boom, boom. It's good to be reminded of this stuff. Like, okay, I remember that. I'll keep that in my head.
Oh yeah.
And so, how long was it before you got started in brewing? How long did it take before you actually had a product?
So we got this building. We leased it again. We didn't have the money at the time to buy the building, whatever. But we leased it in 2016. There was a lot of stuff with the city. We had to rezone the building. It's always more difficult with alcohol establishments too. We were I think we're the second or third in Fort Lauderdale to open. So like the city didn't have a lot of knowledge in how to set up a brewery, how to make it safe, all that kind of stuff. So just everything took a lot of time. So we didn't actually open until September of 2018. So we had this building for 2 years, building it out, doing everything. We had product, and we went to we donated product to events and beer competitions and that kind of thing. But we were not able to sell a pint of beer until we opened. So it was a long, expensive 2 years to get open.
2 years. Wow.
But we got there. And again, have a goal, have a focus, and figure out how to make it work. That's what we did.
No, it was going to take you 2 years.
No, guys, I had no idea. No, I thought maybe 6 months at the max. We actually had, when we planned and leased the building, we actually had about a 6-month deferral on the lease to build out and get ready to go and that kind of thing. And well, it took a little longer than that. So,
well, now, so you get a product. You laid the groundwork out for sales, I guess, before you actually could sell. How do you go about that? How do you know to do that? Did you come down here, know how to? When did you have the first idea? I'm going to do this as a business.
Yeah, so it was pretty much when I graduated from dental school. I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously at that point in time, it was a hobby.
Yeah.
And I knew hey, this would be a fun thing to do on the side. Right. So I was all right, let's kind of look at it. And, I moved back to Seattle for a little bit and worked with my dad when he was still alive. And I started doing a little more research and that kind of thing, and ended up meeting my business partner at the time. And he and I were looking at either doing the brewery in Washington State which is where we started doing a lot of our initial research and all that. But I didn't want to do dentistry in Washington State. So I was going to be the one that moved to Florida because the place where I did my residency wanted to hire me out of dental school. And I wanted to make the move. My dad had passed away. So it was like a good time for my wife and I to cut ties with Washington and move on.
Yeah.
So I was going to travel back to Washington and help him grow the business that way. But as soon as I moved down here and saw the need for the craft beer market down here versus in Washington State, become very apparent that it should be down here.
Yeah.
Versus there.
Like in Denver and Colorado, there's like 1 million craft beer operations. Yeah. I know there were up in Boston, and you come down to Lauderdale and it's basically virgin territory, right?
Oh, yeah, the desert. There's one, at that point in time when I first moved, there was one brewery in Fort Lauderdale proper. And it was right down by the airport. So it was a natural fit, to be honest. And so I had my business partner fly out here and set up a couple meetings with breweries around the area. So one down in Miami, one up in Palm Beach. And then we went to the one by the airport and I just let him talk, ask his questions. I tried to stay out of it because obviously I'd give him a biased opinion. So, and at the end of the whole thing, he's like, yep, this is the place where we need to do it. So we packed up shop in Vancouver, Washington, moved his whole family over to South Florida, and we opened this place together. And we didn't actually buy him out until my wife and I bought him out in 2022.
Really?
And so now it's just my wife and I. But yeah, it's been a good run.
You started selling in 2018?
Yes, just here in the tap room, minor distribution, not a ton.
Yeah.
And the brewery over time, it just kind of showed us what kind of animal it wanted to be. And right now it's become a huge distribution forward. Cans are big. I mean, we just got picked up by Publix in 250 locations about
congratulations
4 months ago. Thank you. So the canning aspect of it's becoming a big deal. So that's what we're kind of now switching gears a little bit to be able to support that and feed the business the way it needs to be fed. So
what are some of the other places you're in?
Oh gosh, we're in 450 bars and restaurants as well, from Key West to Port St. Lucie.
Wow.
So we have a ton of places that we're serving kegs to, and some take cans too. It's not just kegs, but yeah, so we're in quite a few, and it's taken, again, a great sales force, and we have a phenomenal sales team here and a great distribution company that assists us in that as well. So
I'm going to have to come down. I'm getting curious about this operation you must have semis or trucks in and out of there all the time. It must be a madhouse.
It's a madhouse. It's a madhouse.
I mean, it looks relatively calm here.
Right now, it's relatively calm, but it's a little bit on the noisy side. So I apologize for that again, guys. But yeah, no, it's busy. It's very busy. But hey, wouldn't want it any other way.
How do you go and deal? I mean, is that really a blessing to have 250 Publix stores that all of a sudden you've got a canned beer for?
Yeah, it could be the opposite problem.
Yeah.
We could be sitting there looking at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I will grant that it's a happy problem, but
Yes, it's a busy problem, though.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
How long did it take you to adapt to that? What's involved in something like that?
Well, we had to buy a canning line. So before that, we bought the canning line before Publix. We had a satellite company that used to come and help us canning equipment. It's expensive if you buy it on your own. But when it became more apparent that this was what the need was and what people were asking for, we made that investment and bought that. So we, at least twice a week, are canning large runs of cans. And we had to set up a bigger walk-in cooler to be able to store the product and all that stuff. So it's been a logistical, I wouldn't say nightmare. It hasn't been a nightmare, but it's been busy. It's been busy.
What is your method? Because what you've had to do, Ty, to point out to you, you have been faced with one monster situation after another, like just getting the legal side, getting the regulation, getting the permits, and then get all of these inspections and get your equipment. You got these big vats and who knows where to get all this crap. It's like barrels and cans and canning.
Yeah.
How do you go about? It's like all of a sudden now you got to do this. How do you go about something you've never done before? It's a complicated thing. You can't figure it out, go down and to the hardware store and get some stuff and tinker with it.
Ask the question.
What is your approach of you got a new phase, a new thing. We got to figure this out. Everybody say, Ty, what do we do now? How do you look at those and evaluate that and start to unravel that, peel those onions?
Well, again, we do everything as a team. It's not just me. A lot of the back end research, cost analysis, all that was all done prior. We meet here at the brewery. We do weekly meetings. We sit down. We talk about next moves that need to be done, what the needs are, how do we get there, how do we become more efficient. And we do that at dental practice too. I mean, we constantly are rebuilding ourselves to become better and more efficient in how we run the business. So I can't say it's definitely not just me. It's a group effort. And there is, again, some luck and I guess some vision. But again, I'm surrounded by a bunch of great people. And all of this would not be possible without being surrounded by the right people. So, and that's a testament to, in the brewery, my business partner that I had when we started the business, how we grew it and built it. And also the guy that I bought my dental practice from.
What's the key to getting a good team around you and keeping them, to get the right kind of team around? What have you learned about that?
You have to interview and you have to make sure that when you begin a relationship, you think you have the right tools together to be able to be successful, but also treating people the right way, being a good employer, paying people the right way, not taking advantage of people. Yeah, I think all that is unfortunately pretty rare. And obviously people really appreciate it. And it becomes a family over time. You build that trust, and it goes both ways, right? I mean, I would do anything for my employees and likewise they do anything for us, my wife and I. So it goes both ways.
How have you found the best way to get those people is to grow them yourself, get them in, start them on small projects, move them up, or bring people in from the outside that already have that training?
We've done it both ways. We've definitely done it from the bottom up, but usually it goes, we don't start from scratch. We get through our connections in whatever industry, whether it be the brewery or the dental world or whatever, we use our connections to get recommendations, people that are looking to change or whatever, that have the tools that we're looking for. So try not to do it from a kind of throw an ad out there and see what comes in, because usually it doesn't work best.
How would you explain to people how you compartmentalize and how you keep both of them running at fever pitch? If I was guessing, I would say you've got numerical markers that kind of govern both businesses that are key indicators you're doing the right things and right activities, right results. But how would you say, how do you compartmentalize and keep them both going at back?
Well, I have the brewery. My wife is not a practicing attorney anymore. So she's now the general manager here. So she is completely running this side of the family business. And I come on Fridays. Again, there's things that are needed. Analyses have been ran, that kind of thing. And we do our weekly meetings. But generally, day to day, my wife's running the show here so that I can focus on the dental practice and make sure that my focus is 100% there when I'm there. So again, it's a team effort.
Right. And so what are some principles do you find that there's sayings, there's principles, there's concepts that you learned or you heard in your formative years from coaching, from just growing up and having your first areas of responsibility, that where you role models and things like that, phrases, ideas that became internalized and a part of how you do and operate even without thinking, that just kind of
right.
Anything like that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, sports, specifically football, was probably outside of my parents, obviously, like I spoke about before, but made me kind of search within my soul multiple times and come out of it and become better and then get chopped down and then have to work at it again. That kind of mentality, I think, is probably the thing that has made me innately not care about things that are hard, push through it and know that there's going to be another side, whatever that other side is going to be. Just push through it, because without doing it, nothing's ever going to happen anyway, right? So I've always been a person, for better or for worse, as my wife would tell you, that never quits and just continually pushes through things.
Explain what you mean by that, like not put off by when things, I run into something and it's hard and that doesn't dip me, or just like hard.
I've always been, again, I'm going to say it's through sports. And I've always had, like, even when I was younger, my goal was to be a starter on my team, then eventually get a college football scholarship, and then hopefully eventually play in the NFL, all that stuff. All that is the goal, right? And there's a lot of obstacles we got to get through to accomplish those goals. And working through those is extremely difficult sometimes, especially when you're trying to do well in school and in college neurobiology major. All those kids had really nothing else going on besides studying and doing that. And I'm traveling around playing games and studying on airplanes, and everybody else is taking a nap and that kind of thing. That's hard on a young brain, but being able to work through that has made me, I think, probably more resilient than most, and able to kind of brush off problems and just continually keep the goal in mind. Everybody falls and fails, but it's how you pick yourself up and move forward that I think makes the difference in situations like this, or in business, and any situation, how you pick yourself up.
How do you get to where you recharge? Because we can't go like on coffee round the clock forever. Have you ever had the thing where you just worked yourself to the bone?
Yeah. My wife will be the first to tell you, so hopefully you get her on this podcast. When I crash, I crash. I crash. So I've always been a good sleeper though too. So I always try to get at least 8 hours of sleep a night. Sometimes it doesn't happen, like when you're building out the building or whatever, but my kids go down, I go down. I don't sit up and watch TV till midnight or anything like that. I go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, get up at 6 and go at it again. So I know how important sleep is. And for me specifically, I know for some people it's not, but for me, I know myself, and to be the best I possibly can be, I have to get the rest to be able to do it. So I do take care of myself that way, and make sure that I try not to let anything get in the way unless it's absolutely necessary of that. Things happen. Kids need to study for tests or whatever, and they need help, whatever. There's circumstances, but as a general rule, I try to get enough rest to where I can be as successful as possible the next day.
When you were coming up, were mentors, role models more important, or getting things out of books or tapes, things like that?
I think I always saw my parents just work their tail off. And I think that really made a large impression on me. They got divorced when I was really young. So I saw each side of them just work their tails off to make sure that we had the life we make sure we were set up as best as possible to become successful ourselves. So I think that probably made the biggest impression on me, to be honest with you. Yeah, without that kind of influence, would I have not gotten to the point where I am in terms of my mentality now? I don't know, but it certainly helped quite a bit.
At what point, or have you ever in your life got to the point where you said you could see how you were and you could see how you wanted your life to be, and then you could see other people and say, no, I'm not going to do that?
That summer program I did was it. I'm telling you, that was the major change in my life, was becoming competitive and basically looking around the room and saying, hey, I'm going to be the best in this room. In any way, shape, or form it needs to happen, I'm going to do it. That was it. I mean, honestly, that was a major turning point in my life.
Did that happen right away?
Yeah.
It's funny how things can change when you change your mind. And
it was a direct mind change. It was just a different way to look at school and really sports. Honestly, at that point in time, I had participated in sports, but I wasn't overly competitive and just kind of going through the motions and all that. And yeah, it's amazing how 3 months of time can make such a big impact on your long-term life and how you run your life. Yeah, I actually never really thought about that. I'm glad we're talking about this. But my oldest son, he's the one that came up and gave me a hug not too long ago. He's very much like me with school. He is very ADD. And my wife and I thought about taking him for a summer to do that same program. And I think we're definitely going to do it. It's a matter of finding whether it's this summer or next summer. He's also a very competitive athlete, so he does a lot of the travel stuff. So we got to work through that as well. So
maybe you could buy that school and open up a branch in Lauderdale.
I don't need any more problems.
I'm curious how your mind approaches the success in terms of you're looking at this thing like 250 stores with Publix.
Yeah. No, it's a lot faster than I thought it was going to happen, but always approached and it might not sound true, but I've always approached businesses, like I said, as a family. And success to me is being able to have everybody have success in this business, not just my wife and I, right? So we're always here. If something big ever happens, we get it together. We're not, I guess, the typical owners on that way. Whatever goals and stuff we get to, we ever sell the business, for example, for any substantial amount of money. I mean, that's not something that we're going to take ourselves. I mean, we're not the only people that made this happen. So it's a group effort. It's a family effort. And that's kind of, and I'd say my employees, but really it's my family. I think they know it. And that really is a driving factor. People believe in not only in the product, but, who my wife and I are and the kind of environment that we demand, really. I mean, we definitely have had employees that don't fit the mold and they don't last long. And that's okay. It's just that we're looking the right fit. So just lucky in the dental world that it hasn't happened at all. And we're lucky also that it hasn't happened a lot here at the group. So,
just from a competition standpoint, since we brought it up, how many, because you went from somebody who knew how to make craft beer for yourself, basically, made it in a bathtub.
Pretty much, yeah.
Where now you're supplying 450 individual outlets all over the state and 250 Publix stores now. So you become somebody in this business. How big is that? How many are there?
Publixes?
That are on the size, breweries that are up to the size that you are right now. What does it look like?
There's quite a few.
Because in a lot of you're the biggest in the state, biggest in the region, biggest.
No. There's a lot of them, but a lot of them are owned by a lot of people too. I mean, I couldn't really tell you about individually owned breweries, to be honest. Off the top of my head, I really don't know of any that are at our size, or there's very few.
That's what I wanted to bring out. That's pretty substantial. I mean, congratulations.
Yeah, but there's plenty of craft breweries that are large that are owned by multiple people. I mean, it's a group effort versus.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
One family.
Yeah, you've really, and again, you did that as a second business. So congratulations. I always let my guests, appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy.
Oh, absolutely.
What you got tomorrow? What you said you got a fishing tournament or something?
Fishing tournament. So yeah, for the last, really since we opened, we have partnered with a charity organization called the John Michael Baker Foundation. And John Michael Baker was a kid who unfortunately lost his life about 7 or 8 years ago. His parents started a foundation in his honor. And we have always made a beer for them for not only the tournament, but we also distributed out to our network, and we share profits with them as well. So it is their John Michael Baker fishing tournament tomorrow, which I'm participating in with a couple friends of mine. So we're leaving my house at 4:30 in the morning. So
wow.
We're going to be up fishing by you, Larry.
Yeah.
We're going to be up in Jupiter.
Oh, are you?
Go tell me about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Yeah. Binoculars, right?
Yeah, some kind of telescope. But
there you go.
I always let the guests have the final word, Ty. And so for those that have been sturdy enough and interested enough to stay with us the whole time, what kind of last word would you have for them as we break this off and let you get on back to the business?
I've always looked at life as, not to be grim or anything, but my dad unfortunately passed away when he was 65. And so I don't look at life as given. Life is what you make it. And things that I want to do or have the desire to do, there's no better time than now to try to figure out how to make those a part of your life. So really that's how these things have happened for me. It hasn't always been the right time. And again, to get my wife on here, I'm sure she'll share those growing pains with me, but we do it. And at the end of the day, it's not, most of the time it works out to the way we want it to work out. And it takes obviously a lot of effort and time and all that, but there's no better time than the present to do the things that you want to do in your life. It takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of grind to get it done. But I think that's the number one thing is just do it.
It's easier to put in the effort and grind if it's something you want to do.
Correct.
And the sooner you do it, the sooner you can start to get the payoff from it. And like you say, and so many times, sometimes it'll take longer and everything, but sometimes it surprises you once it gets going. Like you had, that seems to me, it takes like in the beginning, it takes forever. Like you had thought it was going to be 6 months, took 2 years, but then now it's like skyrocketing.
Yeah, no, it's becoming its own thing. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of satisfaction that comes with that. And then being able to surround myself with people that I truly love. It's great. It's awesome.
And so the sooner you get going on something that you got inside you to do, the quicker you can get to the point where Ty is and his family are in their business. Thanks so much, Ty.
I appreciate it. Mr. Weidel, I appreciate you as always.
Yes, sir. We'll see you, man. Take care. Have a great weekend.
All right. Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. Commit to your personal and professional evolution with our free training video. It's designed not just as an educational session, but as a transformative journey for those bold enough to aim for the stars. This isn't just any webinar. It's a roadmap to achieving the extraordinary. It's tailored for those who dare to dream big, and yes, it is completely free. Join us in a network of ambitious professionals ready to take their careers to new heights. Secure your spot now at WeidelOnWinning.com, and let's unlock your potential together. Thanks for being part of this community.